Okay, now to get back on this again, because there's a lot of people that are terrified of this being here. What a lot of people don't realize is that nobody wants you to go here. Nobody wants you to go there because there's no poverty there. There's no one slaved there. If you did follow the people that ran this country, they would eventually school you about this place, tell you all about this place. And as a result, you become aware of your surroundings. You would know that this is really what it is. Flat plane with the sun and a moon above it. That's an occulted sun and a moon. So this is basically the moon here, and that's the sun. And that's the occulted black sun that stays in the perpetual twilight. So what I'm going to show you is some things that they're hiding, and you will see for yourself that these Freemasons are nothing but magicians. They're just lying their asses off. They're creating these fear campaigns. They're scaring the crap out of everyone. And you're going to see firsthand some of their handiwork. And you're going to know that all they're trying to do is keep you from going here. Another example. Here's another one. The sun and the moon up top. The black sun on the bottom. Now what is it? What are you seeing here? Fear. Why? Because no one wants to go to their death. No one wants to go to that black hole. The sun and the moon are being anchored by the black sun that sits in perpetual twilight. And they're telling you that there's death awaiting here. I mean, come on, man. That is fear. That is classic trauma-based mind control. Now, whenever you worship like a Jesus character or a Satan character, you're always told to bow your head and close your eyes. And the reason why that is not because it's just evil. It's because the black sun, which is here, brings it into reality. This would be the Rain Man. This would be the person that rains down all your good fortune. This would be the person that gives you material shit, anything that you would desire, and make it come into reality. That's what the Rain Man is. Now, that is not necessarily evil per se. It is actually considered to be whatever it is that you make it. Just like your life up here is whatever it is that you make it. And it's all about attitude and your intent, and it's all powered by intent. Now, let me show you real quick here, just so you don't get too, oh, it's just going to show us that map again. Well, you can call this place wherever you want. They call it the Utopia Land of Plenty, the luck world. That's what this means. The only reason that this is the luck world, they also call it the land of cocaine. Oh my goodness. It's a place where chickens, geese, pigeons fly around already cooked, waiting to be eaten, and every house is surrounded by a hedge of sausage. A number of maps in this country were apparently produced between the 1700s and 1750. One pictured here was published by Jonathan Baptist Humann in Nuremberg, I guess Germany, in 1716. So, if you look at all of this, I mean, this is not a made-up place, clearly. There's regions, districts, there's fucking kingdoms in this motherfucker, and all the names are synonymous with what actually happens in these places. Now, to explain something, is that this is something that is being brought into reality by the way of the Rain Man. So it is literally what you make it to be. Let me prove this to you real quick. You're going to be blown away when you see some of these names. Alright. Besides Seraphiland proper shown in the first two images above, the map depicts countries in the same imaginary continent. They don't want anybody knowing. Look at the website. They call it Spamula. So the only thing they can do is control your mind. They can't do nothing else. This mind control shit is what keeps you captive. You understand? It's the only thing they got. They can't control us any other way other than fear. That's what the chemtrails are for. It's nothing but vapor water. No one is going to poison the air that they breathe. All you have to do is put two and two together. They're just trying to scare the living daylights out of us. So we follow them and follow them out of fear. That's it. That's all they got. That's all they fucking got is fear. Just forget about the horn, hind leg beast and just do what the fuck you want and say fuck you. And if we did that as a collective, we would just take this motherfucker over. Now listen to these maps, man. It's unbelievable. This is created from the temporal. Alright? In the same way, alright, whoever persons in particular conquer provinces and districts, that's that big land map, Utopia slate decode it. It says, in the same way the people of the pious, the temporal revelation and destruction of eternal ruinous regions. Alright? They create whatever the fuck they want with their fucking minds by the way of black sun. Alright? Now let me show you the correlation. It's just gonna blow your fucking hair off your fucking head. Alright? The same imaginary continent, okay? You fruitioning this shit into reality by your intent. Including Mammonia, Republic of Verinia, Bibonia, Land of Booze. And if you notice on that plate that everyone's having a good time, they're full of stuff, they're throwing up all over each other. I'm telling you, man, these motherfuckers just do shit but just sit around and get fat. That's all they do. Because there's no poverty there, there's nothing there. But your intent, whatever it is. And what happens is the reason why these districts exist this way is because you have a collective form of consciousness that happens in each district. So people say, this is what I want to see, and then this is what happens. If you want a sex world where literally fucking penises and vaginas just pop up, there's probably a kingdom amongst all of these kingdoms that has a sexual related collective form of consciousness where everyone agrees that this type of place happens. There's probably giant dick trees. Who the fuck knows, man? To get into this in detail, Bibonia, Land of Booze, and a great empire of the stomach, Magni Stomachi Imperium. Who the fuck would just make all of this shit up? All common vices of humans in their place. There's even an island of tobacco where all the smokers go and chill. There's probably a marijuana fucking place where all the weed would just grow, and these collective forms of consciousness by way of black sun would bring it into reality. This is the Rain Man's handiwork. Above you will see the handiwork of a Jesus Christ Son character who gives and feeds the trees and feeds everything by the way of the sun itself, which is only just color spectrum and nutrients and rays. You can photosynthesize this shit into your brain and it charges your chakras up and it makes you highly intelligent. It will enlighten you just like Jesus Christ does. See what I'm saying? It's all relative to the guise of these two sun characters and what they can bring you. The Rain Man gives you material shit. Jesus gives you spirituality. Super easy, man. That's all they're hiding is this fucking sun gods. You shouldn't worship a sun god because I'm not telling you that there's no God at all. I'm telling you that there is a creator that made this place. And somehow they believe that it's disrespect for you to bow your head to one of these gods and tell you that another sun god exists. And that's what you're doing when you go to church. You bow your head to the black sun and you bring it into reality, your worship of this other sun god. It's just, you got a maker somewhere. And they've created all of this shit. And a lot of hint that it's just a woman who gave birth to these suns. Gave birth to a light sun, and the opposite side of that sun would be a black sun, which is just the flip side of it. It's not. And then the woman, you notice that the sun is a full-grown being, but it's super tiny, and that's because this woman is just massive. This god female entity that Mother Earth represents. It's just a big ass woman whose placentas are the trees, the giant trees. And those giant trees give you life, kind of like this. And the people that are in the know, they'll come out and they'll tell you, these just these Freemason guys, they're just lying their asses off. But they're hiding in plain sight what it really is. They said, what in the world? Is it a girl? They just keep rubbing it in. The placentas, the giant trees give everybody life. And the chicken comes before the egg. The chicken is a swinging dick. You take the female, which is the man and the woman out, and you leave it with the egg, which is just a swinging dick. And that's why you've got so many fucking masculine rituals happening. Like this. My city just decorated my whole strip with Christmas dicks. Shit like that happening. You take the woman out, that's what happens. It all goes straight gay. Not to say that homosexuals are evil, but this is just something they're doing to try to confuse the masses to make us one or the other. Whereas some people are naturally homosexual, and then there's some people who are just being pulled into an indoctrination to confuse people, which is why your phallus hangs limp on your Cuban Saturn hat, which represents you're confused. Look at all this. I mean, this is like clearly pubic hair sticking out the side of a dick and balls. I mean, it's fucking disgusting, man. But it is made to this, you know, to confuse you. Look, I'm telling you, they got motherfuckers jacking off their paint, just to paint. I'm telling you, man. This Pizzagate stuff, I honestly feel, look how many shares they shared the fuck out of my post, man. It's fucking crazy. But let's just take a look at this real quick. This is on national television. Now come on, they got kids being strapped to shit in a Facebook post and nobody's done nothing about it. Come on, man. You got Obama blatantly right in front of people, hugging on some little girl, kissing on her neck. This is the Pizzagate stuff. Now come on now. Do you really think they'd be stupid enough to put this shit out in the open like this? Look at this shit. Do you really think? I must have been dumb as hell to think that this shit was even real to be on news in the first place. Look at this fucking bullshit. They want us to be scared of them. They want us to think that people are being chomped down and molested and all this stuff because they want us to be scared. Same thing as this. And as soon as they started talking about all that Pizzagate shit, look at what surfaces. Celebrities busting out the pizza outfits, trying to scare us with the little Baphomet stars on their cheek. Now come on now. Now let's just get real. Are these dudes really doing something, or are these guys crisis actors? You gotta really ask yourself, is it just for fear? Is it that they just want to scare us? So we stay right where we are. Why? Same reason why they lied about the spinning ball. It's the same fucking reason. The same reason is because of this Rain Man character. He brings everything into reality. And you see the opposite side of Nupus Riega is literally the northern lights shooting through from the opposite side, powering it. Now, this place looks gloomy and dark, and every picture they show us of this black sun looks like hell, doesn't it? Well, I got news for you. The reason why it looks like hell is because they want you to believe that this place is hell. But your mind will make it whatever you want it to be. I'm telling you that this place will look like this whenever you fucking want it to be. In any area. It will be a haven if you want it to be. Because of the way of the black sun. Literally, pork running around with readily cooked, asking you if you're hungry. Anything that you can perceive in the mind. It has nothing to do with food. It has to do with matter being brought into fruition. See, this is a manipulation of matter. This has nothing to do with food at all. It's a manipulation of matter by way of temporal and cognitive functions connected to the black sun. That's what this place is all about. That's what Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is all about. That's what the center tree is connected to. A world that is connected to the black sun or Satan that brings things into reality. That's why you bow in the church, because you're bringing worship of a blood sun god into reality. Who fucking knows? This motherfucker probably exists over here. There's probably so many Satan worshipers on this side of the earth. There's so many Satan worshipers on this side of the earth and Jesus worshipers. There's probably a real Jesus Christ walking around here with no purpose whatsoever, just walking around, just existing. Or Satan just walking around, just existing. Just because motherfuckers want it to exist, not because it really does exist. And not because it can't exist, because it can exist, because life is what you make it. And the grass is greener on the other side, and all this shit they keep rubbing in your damn face. Literally, people are fucking sitting on their asses. And it goes on and on and on. It goes on and on and on. These things are running around in this place because people were imagining, and then shit comes to reality in this place. There's kingdoms and worships and districts, kingdoms and all kinds of things that are just created out of thin air. Let me show you another example. Disney's Big Giant. In this scene, what happens is this doesn't show you that part, but he's collecting the dreams from the opposite side. This part right here, where these are northern lights. See that? It's shooting out of this magical tree here, out of the top of it. Now you should watch that BFG movie, because when they start walking up the hill, all of the water starts flowing up the hill where the tree is. All that water starts flowing up. It's fucking nuts in this BFG movie. You gotta see it, dude. I'm telling you. And then when they get to the top of it, they hop in the water and they bounce out the other side. And on the other side, all of the dreams that are in the world come to reality, and they're catching the dreams. Check it out. Northern lights right above coming out the tree. I'm telling you, man, they rub this shit in your fucking face. The dreams are reality here. That's where they're at. They're just on the opposite side of the plane. That's it. I'm telling you. Check this motherfucking movie out. This is what it is. I'm telling you, dude. Rub it in your face. So I suggest everybody just realize for a second that all of they're doing is trying to hide this place. They want you to be scared to death of it. They want you to be scared of your salvation. They got a lot of fear campaigns, got you scared to death. They got a lot of chemtrails in the air, got you scared to death. A lot of fake shit on the news, got you scared to death. They got Rudy, the actor, biting faces off, who also has no obituary, scaring you to death. They got World War Z scaring you to death. They got everything, politics, scaring you to death. They got the Baphomet scaring you to death. And it's all to hide your salvation. They got the spinning ball, Nibiru comets, and alien invasions scaring you to death. But they don't have any power over you, man, because if you would see just for a second that it is your own doing and willing that is allowing them to have control over you. And it's the only reason you will never get to this place. You will never go to this place because you're scared to death, because you think that this man is sitting there waiting over there to rip you a new asshole with the rest of his followers. But it's nothing but paradise. I'm telling you, they took the trees down and we haven't been the same since. Everything has been stolen from us. We've been taught to reverse the truth. You get under there and drink that water, you live forever, you change your world, you create your own cognitive functions to create your own, shape your own reality. And there you have it.
In my shoes, walking sleep, and my youth I pray to keep. Heaven send away, no one seems like you anymore. Black hole sun, won't you come wash away the rain? Black hole sun, won't you come, won't you come?
Won't you come?
Black hole sun,
Won't you come? Won't you come? Black hole sun, won't you come?
black hole sun, black hole sun.
The most secret, feared, revered, observed object by the ancients, was called by the adepts and high-level initiates of the mysteries, the Black Sun. Known as the sun behind the sun, the knowledge of this celestial object was high-level secret science to the elite, and low-level mythos and fairy tales for the serfs and common people, contained in books of theos and mythos. Only those initiated into the secret science understood and knew the symbols and stories in their books, and said knowledge was guarded carefully. The ancients believed there were two suns, a white sun, our solar sun, and a black invisible sun, at least to the serfs and those kept in ignorance. This black sun was noticed by the ancient adepts to move in such a way with our solar sun as to act as a ghost, moving in the exact same course and path as our solar sun. They also noticed at certain periods in a cycle, this star would be hidden behind our sun, and it was in this conjunction they believed either life and generation would miraculously appear, or death and destruction as divine providence. To the ancient primal Egyptians, this black sun was believed to be a doorway or gateway to heaven and the gods. This star rises before our solar sun every year helically, beginning on July 4th. For 70 days prior, this star is hidden behind our sun, and the ancient Egyptians would not bury their dead believing the gateway to heaven and the gods closed. The helical rising of this black sun brought on what was called the dog days of summer, the hottest time of the year. To the Egyptians, it marked the time of the inundation of the Nile, causing the parched desert to bloom, bringing forth life. But depending upon the cycle of this black sun, it would also bring on drought, plague, pestilence, and death to the inhabitants of Upper and Lower Egypt. The ancient Egyptians believed this unique conjunction between these two suns acted as a portal and doorway of divinity. Understanding the motion and cycle of this black sun with our solar sun also bestowed a unique ability and advantage over one's enemies that could be used against them strategically in combat. This most sacred and secret star in ancient mythos is called the Universal Father, the Great Architect, the Divine Sun, Heaven, and the Gateway to the Gods. The ancient historian Plutarch called it, Prutes, the leader. To the Egyptians, it was named Sokdet, and Anu. To the Greeks, Syrios. To the Persians, Tyre. To the Semitic Canaanites, Hazel. To the Hebrews it was called, Sihor. To the ancient Sumerians, Orn. In Vedic titles, it is called Kionastron, and Mragavyada. To the Romans, it was called Sirius. To the ancient Celts, it was Ser. As gods, the black sun was called Isis and Anubis to the ancient Egyptians. Sophis, to the Greeks. Halel, to the Hebrews. Lucifer, to the Latins. In Syro-Arabic, it was called Matzaroth. In Arabic, it is called Al-Shira. To the Babylonians, Ishtar. The Phoenicians, Astarte. Other titles are the blazing star, Scorcher, the morning star, the bright, the evening star, the mighty one, the holy one, the torch of Loki, the star of Shiva, the arrow, the star of the east, the ruddy one, the dog star, the third eye, Pineal, Mother Mary, Diana, guardian of the gate, wonderful, he who holds the 7 stars, the conspicuous one, the queen of heaven, the mother goddess. The star Sirius was the prime focus of architecture in Egypt. Most all-important and sacred structures at Giza, at Luxor, at Karnak, all along the entire Nile, were built in azimuthal alignment with the dog star. Entrances, shafts, the geometry general, is aligned in such a way as to allow the light of the dog star Sirius to enter these structures for initiations and sacred rituals. In Turkey, the ancient temple of Göbekli Tepe is also aligned with the star Sirius, and bears pictographs throughout its wall structures, depicting this dark star of ancient awe and wonder. The sacred knowledge, and the core secret behind the dark star, was precession. The ancient Egyptians chronicled a close encounter with the black dog star, 14,000 years ago, that became embedded within the myth-making fabric of most all ancient civilizations. In the Old Testament of the Bible, it's known, and called the gene of Isis. The ancient seers and astronomer priests understood by pure astronomical science that our solar sun was bound and connected to the star Sirius. that the two celestial objects were attached in a binary orbit around each other, and that at times within this cycle, cataclysmic events have occurred in the past, involving the convergence of these celestial bodies, and will happen again in the future. They also believed that the dog star had a certain mystical influence upon planet Earth, that was interpreted as supernatural when it was in conjunction with our sun during what was known as the Sothic cycle. A cycle of 1461, 365-day years. This is the sole reason why the ancient Egyptians built the Great Pyramid at Giza. The Great Pyramid is a giant observatory, of which its principal purpose is to track the star Sirius. Throughout history, the secret knowledge involving the Black Dog Star was kept by the hierophants of the mystery religions, encoded by etymology and allegory. In today's largest secret society, the Freemasons, it is the most highly venerated object within their lodges amongst the higher degrees, and their architecture they have built in cities globally reflects the esoteric symbolism identifying this dark star and black sun. During World War II and the Nazi uprising, the secret attaché of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich were called the SS. To the recruits, it was called the Schutzstaffel, or Special Staff, Security Force. To the initiates of the Thule Society, it was called the Schwarze Zone, or Black Sun. In a secret cable that was read by a Swiss ambassador to Tokyo, the code for the secret atom bomb program of the Nazis was called Sirius. One of the most famous German esoterists behind the occult dogma of the Schwarze Zone was Arishwala de Lubitsch. To Lubitsch, the Black Sun was the cosmic system of atomic structure, whose nucleus was in the great provider called Sothis. He stated the dog star was an extreme gravitational force emanating from the galactic center, and that Sothis, being called the soul of the dog star in antiquity, was also the soul of the German people emblazoned upon the national flag, the swastika. To the high echelon occultists within the Thule Society like Lubitsch, the SS were the initials that stood for Isis, and the first and last letters of the name, Sirius. Within the matrix of theism and mythos amongst all early primal civilizations, is the ground zero and point of origin, the Sirius star. The star plays the most vital and important role in occult wisdom throughout history, whose knowledge is the most tightly kept and secretive, that unlocks the syncretic web of all mysteries of occult and metaphysical sciences. The Black Rite of Memphis practiced by the secret elites of Egypt revealed this esoteric secret through initiation into the Black Dog Sun.
The Roman statesman and philosopher Marcus Cicero called Saturn Phaenon, a word meaning shining. Saturn is where we get our name for Saturday, and Saturnalia was probably the most popular festival of the Roman calendar, characterized by revelry and orgy. Jupiter was called the son of Saturn. The tale of Zeus, or Jupiter, and Kronos, or Saturn, is quite well known. Kronos, who had castrated his own father, Uranus, with a sickle, swallowed all his children by Rhea as soon as they were born, for fear that one would overthrow him. That was until Rhea contrived to smuggle the infant Zeus away. He grew up on Mount Ida, suckled by a goat, and grew up to overthrow his father. Saturn, with his sickle, was associated with the harvest, the passing of seasons, of a timeless era of plenty and bounty before time, a golden age. His devouring of his children taken as an allegory for the passing of generations. That Zeus was spared this fate of being devoured can be interpreted as his generation not being devoured by time, but instead everlasting, like the evergreen tree used now as the Christmas tree, green year-round. Christmas being the modern version of Saturnalia, the traditional time of rebirth and renewal, when the shortest day of the year and the longest night is passed after the winter solstice, and the days start becoming longer again. The solar year is reborn, like a phoenix, or later the eagle, the sign of Jupiter, the planet that has a 12-year cycle passing through the 12 houses or constellations of the zodiac. Saturn takes 28 to 30 years to complete a full cycle. Because Saturn is a symbol of wisdom, which grows with age, its cycle has been seen as particularly important in reflecting our development. Every 7 years, Saturn completes a quarter of the cycle, and we move into a new stage of awareness. The renewal of light and the coming of the year was celebrated in the Roman Empire as the Dies Natalis of Sol Invictus, or the birthday of the unconquerable sun, on December 25th.
In the Northern Hemisphere during late December, the days are at their shortest lengths and the nights are at their longest. For those of the pagan world, this has always been the greatest time of the year to celebrate and practice the works of darkness. The pagan calendar identifies this period as the winter solstice. It was during the pre-Christian midwinter pagan celebrations of Scandinavia's Norsemen where today's Christmas traditions began. As a means of honoring the pagan sex and fertility god Yule, a 12-day celebration during the month of December was inaugurated. A large single log considered to be a phallic idol was lit on fire and kept burning for 12 days. Animal or human sacrifices were offered in the fire on each of those days. Wild, delirious reveling accompanied the daily sacrifices as drunken participants defiantly strove to make contact with spirits. 1,000 miles away in pre-Christian Rome, celebrants were paying homage to their own gods during the winter solstice. Witchcraft traditions hold that a number of pagan gods were given birth during this period, including Dionysus, Attis, and Baal, chief male god of fertility and licentiousness. Another pagan god from Persia, identified as Mithra, was said to have been born specifically on December 25th. Mithra was the god of the unconquerable sun, the god of the light between heaven and earth, worshipped at that time by an influential Roman cult. His birth symbolized an end to the long nights and a return to the dominance of the sun. During the month-long winter solstice celebration, courts in Rome were closed. Any and all crimes were allowed. Homosexuality, cross-dressing, and uncontrolled debauchery reigned supreme. Rome's order was turned upside down. Even children were allowed to join in the drunken orgies as part of the Juvenalia celebration. By 270 AD, the Roman Emperor Aurelian had made it official, setting aside a 7-day period from December the 17th through the 24th, culminating in an exchange of gifts on December the 25th to celebrate the birth of the sun god. This Roman orgy to end all orgies later became known as Saturnalia, in honor of the god Saturn, the god of excess. Roman soldiers invading Britain brought with them their pagan orgiastic traditions. Upon taking root in England, Saturnalia became known as the Festival of Fools, reigned over by the Lord of Misrule. By the 4th century, the influential government-sanctioned Church of Rome, unable to outlaw the growing number of pagan practices, chose instead to adopt them into their so-called official Christianity. The Church believed this would attract more pagans to their fold. Up until this time, the birthday of Jesus Christ, the Jewish Messiah, had not been celebrated at all. Ignoring scriptures, however, indicating that the birth probably did not occur during the winter, the church nevertheless confused biblical history and made Jesus' birthday coincide with the pagan god Mithra. The birth date of the sun god had now become the birth date of the Son of God. It was hoped that the pagan celebrations of Saturnalia would merge into this new legally sanctioned form of Christianity. The Church's practice of changing the dates of Christian events to coincide with pagan festivals continued, and by the 7th century, Pope Gregory I had ordered Augustine of Canterbury to incorporate any and all pagan practices and customs into the expanding Roman Catholic Church. During the Middle Ages, the debased Mardi Gras atmosphere of what was now known as Christ's Mass had reached a fevered pitch. Common practices included open sex in the streets, rioting, murder, and a number of pagan druidic Halloween rituals. This blood-drenched celebration got so out of hand that by 1652, following the execution of King Charles I, Christ's Mass was finally outlawed in England. A religious reform movement began sweeping the country, led by Puritan Oliver Cromwell. The Puritans took the biblical mandate seriously, which commanded that Christianity remain pure and separate from paganism. Despite their noble efforts, the celebration simply went underground, and by 1656, after only 4 short years under the ban, the public's demand for the legalization of Christ's Mass had become insurmountable. The appointment of Charles II to the throne restored England's monarchy, and with it the celebration of Christ's Mass. The Puritans had lost England, but they held high hopes for the New World. Following England's lead in 1659, the colonies of America had likewise outlawed Christmas. For 200 years, the clergy in New England battled to keep the riotous celebrations honoring the pagan god Saturn from infiltrating the New World. The Reverend Cotton Mather had warned in a Christmas Day sermon in 1712, "Can you in your conscience think that your holy Saviour is honoured by hard drinking, lewd revelling, and by a mass fit for none but Bacchus or Saturn?" But the public's taste for sin and revelry persisted. In 1828, gang rioting during the Saturnalia-like Christmas celebrations got so bad that cities such as New York were forced to institute a professional police force for the first time in order to control the savagery.
Christmas was not only not widely celebrated. In many cases, many places, Christmas celebrations were actually outlawed.
By the mid-19th century, American churches were the last remaining holdout in the war against the validation of Christmas. However, they too finally succumbed as a result of the efforts of the American Sunday School Society, who began advocating Christmas programs for children as a method of filling the pews. The society argued that children could be taught about the birth of Christ through the reenactment of the Nativity. They also offered candy and treats to the children as a means of enticing families into accepting the holiday, despite its notorious history and blatantly pagan roots. The successful technique of bribing children with candy would later be used on an unsuspecting American populace in the effort to promote the acceptance of the pagan rituals of Halloween. However, it was the work of England's most popular writer, Charles Dickens, whose ghostly 1843 book, A Christmas Carol, cemented the Christmas holiday in the hearts of Americans forever. By 1875, the Puritans had been beaten, and by 1890, all American states had voted to make Christmas a legal holiday. Today's tradition of the Christmas Yule log stems directly from the worship of the pre-Christian Scandinavian fertility god Yule.
Another good example of the pagan elements of Christmas is the whole concept of Yule and the Yule log. The very term is derived from the Norse god Yule, spelled J-U-L. And every year around Christmas time, a huge log was cut down and fashioned into a fertility symbol and then burned for 12 days. And on each successive day, a new sacrifice to the god Yule was performed in the fire, and a new sacrificial victim was burned to death. Sometimes, but not always, the sacrificial victims were human beings.
Mistletoe, when used in the casting of Wiccan or Druidic spells, could render a woman helpless and open to sexual exploitation. This is where we get our custom of hanging mistletoe in doorways today, and if a woman is caught underneath, she may be kissed, and must not resist.
The fir tree, the mistletoe, all of these things typically come from overtly pagan traditions, typically from Northern Europe, German, Norse, and English.
Likewise, evergreen trees have always represented sex and fertility in pagan cultures. During the winter solstice, trees would be chopped down, brought inside, set up, and decorated as idols for worship.
The Christmas tree was regarded as a sacred tree. The pagans of Northern Europe typically worshipped trees. They regarded trees and groves as sacred. So the bringing of the tree into the house would be a way of bringing this supernatural source of blessing into your home. That was the whole idea, that there were spirits who resided in the trees.
In the Middle Ages, the tradition of the winter solstice Christmas tree primarily took root in Germany. During his reign, King George I, himself of German extraction, brought the custom to Victorian England. German immigrants settling in Pennsylvania did the same in America during the early 1800s. The concept of Santa Claus has had a long and winding history, with a number of diverse cultures contributing to the composite character we have today. Beginning once again in Scandinavia, Santa's original incarnation was in the form of Odin. Odin would travel the sky during the winter solstice, deciding who would die and who would prosper. Most believers were frightened of this particular time of year. In England, Odin eventually evolved into Father Christmas, who, crowned with sprigs of holly, traveled the countryside getting roaring drunk as part of the Festival of Fools celebration. Frequently, he would be accompanied by a horned goat, ironically the biblical symbol of those who reject the salvation of Jesus Christ. Recognized in various cultures as Krampus, Beelzebub, or Zwart Piet, Black Peter, this assistant of St. Nicholas is best known by his German name, Knecht Ruprecht. Described as a hideous horned creature, the servant Ruprecht was a dark and sinister figure who stood in stark contrast to the saintly Nicholas. Somehow, Father Christmas's companion, the horned goat, had metamorphosized into the foreboding horned devil called Ruprecht. As St. Nicholas traveled from house to house, inquiring about the behavior of children, Ruprecht would drop candy and gifts down the chimney into the good children's shoes which had been placed there. It was from this story that we get our tradition of hanging stockings on the mantle at Christmas time. If able to recite a verse or demonstrate a skill for St. Nicholas, the child would receive a gift. If unable to remember a verse, or if the child had been bad, he or she would receive a switch or a whip. Ruprecht also carried a large sack which he would frequently use to haul away the really bad boys and girls. 19th century writer Theodore Storm, in his story about Knecht Ruprecht, even goes so far as to describe the switches given to the children by Ruprecht as tools to be used in sadomasochistic rituals.
Numen is the Latin term for divinity, or divine presence, divine will, or divine mind. Kronos, or Saturn, was also seen as a universal numen in certain esoteric interpretations, which signifies the hidden, called by Latin Deus Latius, the hidden god, or in other words, the occult principle of all things. According to Varro, an ancient Roman scholar and writer, and I quote, "He that produceth out of himself the hidden seeds and forms of all things, and swalloweth them up into himself again." From here we may enter into a deeper understanding of the ancient mysteries. Some of who we today call pagans believe God to be diffused throughout all things. Plato himself approved of worshiping the invisible God in the sun, moon, and stars as visible images. The Zohar explains the term Ein Sof as follows, and I quote, "Before he gave any shape to the world, before he produced any form, he was alone, without form, and without resemblance to anything else. Who then can comprehend how he was before the creation? Hence, it is forbidden to lend him any form or similitude, or even to call him by his sacred name, or to indicate him by a single letter or a single point." Honorary 33rd degree Freemason Manly P. Hall said, and I quote, "The Kabbalists conceive of the supreme deity as an incomprehensible principle to be discovered only through the process of eliminating, in order, all of its cognizable attributes. That which remains when every knowable thing has been removed is Ein Sof, the eternal state of being. Although indefinable, the absolute permeates all space. Abstract to the degree of inconceivability, Ein Sof is an unconditioned state of all things. Substances, essences, and intelligences are manifested out of the inscrutability of Ein Sof, but the absolute itself is without substance, essence, or intelligence. Ein Sof was referred to by Kabbalists as the most ancient of all the ancients. It was always considered as sexless. Its symbol was a closed eye. According to the Kabbalah, Ein Sof Or is the limitless light, an empty, black, silent void that expands itself into boundless proportions, filling itself with metaphysical substance various philosophers have named luminiferous ether, or an electromagnetic azoth. This liquid light substance is an invisible, electromagnetic, radiant energy. Its vibratory emanations are far too subtle to be perceived by or through any of our dense senses. Being an invisible black light, 6,000 years ago the high priests of ancient Egypt declared, "Behold, our God is a black God, too brilliant for mortal eyes." This might help to explain not only the black Osiris, but also the black Madonna, the black Kali, and other deities associated with darkness. That said, the white Osiris is the manifest physical universe we perceive and which the Bible calls day. Modern physicists now declare physical substance fundamentally to be comprised of a light substance in vibration. They have yet to declare just what this light vibration might be, however. The smallest physical particle for years has been known as the quark. More recently, an even smaller particle has been revealed, and this science is labeled dark matter. Ein Sof Ur is that dark matter. The night, or dark matter, is the ocean of black liquid light, a living, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent substance permeating every aspect of all manifest and unmanifest levels of experience. It is absent nowhere, filling all space, filling mineral, vegetable, animal, human kingdoms, and kingdoms beyond. A continuing emanation. Every point exudes its own light and life. Alchemists call this their universal first matter, universal mercury. This is the substance of creation from no thing. The Hindu equivalent to Ein Sof Ur is Mula Prakriti, the root matter. Alchemists from all periods have given it any number of different names, but the principal, one designation has always been simply water, but a permanent water. My name is Robert Sepper. I'm an independent anthropologist and author. My books are published on Amazon.com. Please consider making a donation to Atlantean Gardens if you'd like to support my work. Thank you for sharing this video and subscribing if you haven't already. Please leave a comment and I will see you next time.
Lucifer is the goddess of the black sun, which is truly the great dragon Typhon, the mother of all creation and of all humanity. She was the creator of the black race, the first race of man. So with that being said, you all wonder why the black race or the black people are so attacked by the whites or the government or the police or whatever, because they're representing the black sun, in case you didn't know. So we take a look at this, right? It's the black sun beneath our feet. The sun at the top, the black sun at the bottom. So it's our father and our mother. So Lucifer is the black sun, our mother, the mother of our creation. As she shoots up the creation light that we all come from. We all birthed into this flat earth domed matrix from this creation light. And you're birthed in, and the black sun will birth you out of this matrix. So with that being said, you see, the black race is so attacked because they are representing the black sun. And not to mention that the black sun is trying to help us get out of this matrix that we're in. But if we want to get out, we need to get to the center hole at the center of our flat earth plane that we're living in. Because without the sun and the black sun, we won't be able to get out the matrix, because the sun has to place his menstrual light inside the center hole in order for the black sun, our mother, to shoot up that creation light. And that's when the center hole opens, so we all can escape this matrix.
The black sun exists on the opposing end of our flat Earth. It emits green astral energy, which shoots out visibly as the aurora borealis. Both are two sides of the same sun. While it may seem contradictory, they are two expressions of the same entity. The white sun is feeding our bodies, bones, and blood, all physical matter. The black sun materializes all of our intent, hence why we close our eyes when we make a wish on our birthdays, and this is why we say Amen during prayer. The god Amun, where we get the phrase Amen from, is the black sun, often translated as the hidden one. He is one half of Amun Ra, the Egyptian personification of this two-sided sun. Energetically, the white sun is the collective consciousness of our higher selves, and the black sun is the subconscious. Like our subconscious, the black sun is out of our immediate perception. The collective conscious and subconscious meet when the sun's light shines into the center hole. The black sun transforms both energies into the astral light, which then carries the collective conscious and subconscious of the whole, imprinting every thought and action on this plane into the Akashic records. To put in simple terms, the black sun eats the light from the white sun, takes that light and transforms it into astral light energy. This is a loop. Because the sun is the collective consciousness of all the higher selves, we've been told it's a fiery ball that emits harmful rays, and science tells us that it will one day destroy the earth. This is to hide the ancient practice of sun gazing. We can receive messages from our higher selves through sun gazing, of course starting out when it's low in the sky. And if we were taught to look at the sun from a young age, these messages would be reflecting back in the physical, and this matrix of fear and control would cease to operate. Although many of us have never heard of it, the black sun is one of the oldest symbols on Earth. The black sun was a prominent emblem of the Nazi mythos, and was all throughout ancient Norse, German, and Celtic culture. I've already talked about how the story of the Holy Grail is an allegory for the paradise located beyond the center of our plane, the exit out of this side of flat Earth. Many claims have been made about the Holy Grail, and among them is that the Grail was fashioned from the Emerald of Lucifer. The Emerald of Lucifer is the stone that became dislodged from Lucifer's crown and descended to Earth. As the story goes, Lucifer was cast out of heaven when he rebelled against God, and the emerald came down with. The mainstream interpretation of this story is that Lucifer, a once righteous being, became rebellious against God, and therefore was sent to rule over Earth. This is one reason why Christians will say Earth is ruled by Lucifer and Satan. There's been an effort to demonize this Lucifer figure, but I'm telling you that Lucifer is the black sun. The emerald stone that fell from heaven is the astral light pouring out from Lucifer, the black sun. Many secret societies worship the figure of Lucifer, but they're worshiping the Lucifer they've inverted and not the original black sun Lucifer. Lucifer the black sun is feminine. It's the source of the goddess, 1/3 of the flat earth trinity of sun, black sun, and astral light. They've tried to tell us that Lucifer is masculine and evil, but this goddess again is feminine and full of divine love. I mean, just look at her expressions. In the Bible, both Lucifer and Jesus are referred to as the morning star. Jesus is an allegory for the movement of our sun across the zodiac each year, hence why he is crucified during the winter solstice when the sun is hung on the cross of Crux. So Lucifer is the black sun and Jesus is the white sun, two sides of the same entity, and this is why they're given the same name. Like I said, both suns are on loop. This could be called the Jesus-Lucifer loop. So the Earth Spirit is a beautiful feminine goddess. There have been countless names attributed to her, one of which is ISIS. The terrorist group ISIS, created by our intelligence agencies, represents the ongoing war on the divine feminine. Feminism's idea of the patriarchy is physical. physical groups of men who for centuries have suppressed physical groups of women. But the true patriarchy, if we are to call it that, is a war on the divine feminine principles. Many cultures throughout history have degraded women, and this is representative of this war. Again, it is not merely women who have been suppressed, but the divine feminine principles. They're not exactly synonymous. This suppression of the divine feminine applies to both males and females. The deviations of the masculine-feminine balance in each gender towards excessive masculinity is apparent in the egotistical, selfish, insensitive behavior and the lack of compassion that has been displayed here for a long time.
Like I said, people, it has nothing to do with humans or anything like that. It's all dealing with the sun and the black sun. The racism is dealing with more and far more advanced things than you think it does. Because you think that doesn't, like it's dealing with human, which is not dealing with humans. It's dealing with something completely different. And as you can see, people, the sun and the black sun. So, yeah, you know. And we all come from the black sun. Clear as day and plain and simple. We all the same, people. There is no color. Because we all basically the same color. If you think about it. Because if you don't know about the black sun, then you need to do your research. I recommend you to research the black sun. The black sun is the mother of all creation. And the aurora borealis. Because, as I say this again, racism has nothing to do with humans. It doesn't. It's dealing with the two suns. The white sun and the black sun. And the black sun is trying to help us to get outside of this matrix that we're stuck in. Like the government or the reptilians or whatever they holding some type of grudge against the black sun because she's helping us escape of this matrix. And the thing is that she is not letting them pass over to the Garden of Eden to escape through this sense of hold. When I mean by them, I mean in the government, the army, the police force or whatever. They can't go near this sense of hold. And they feeling some type of way about that because they cannot get out this matrix. It's frustrating them. So they're taking all that anger out on the black sun. And the black race is representing the black sun. So that's why they're always killing the black people and hating on the black people and doing this and that to the black race because of the black sun. If they can't get to the black sun, they're going to take it out on the black race. You see what I'm saying, people? Are you following along? Are you comprehending?
This war on the feminine is all a war on the goddess of this plane, Mother Earth. Squares are masculine and circles are feminine. Instead of squaring the circle, as the Freemasonic symbol suggests taking the feminine and hiding it within masculinity, we must circle the square and return to a balance with the divine feminine. In the Emerald Tablets, the deity Thoth writes about the halls of Amenti. It is a place inside the earth where only few dare to enter. It's the place Thoth was said to have gone, to rejuvenate every so often so he could achieve everlasting life. The halls of Amenti are generally recognized as a non-physical realm, similar to that of the Akashic records. But I'm telling you, the halls of Amenti will be found when we follow our compasses. The Emerald Tablets are sometimes associated with being formed from the Emerald of Lucifer. Therefore, we could see the Emerald Tablets as being the guidelines and instructions coming from the Black Sun. Lucifer, being the Black Sun, is urging us through these tablets, among many things, to get to the halls of Amenti, through the center vortex where our compasses are pointing to. When we read Tablet 2 of the Emerald Tablets, it's clear that Amenti is a paradise located within our earth, where those who dwell achieve eternal life. Not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. Now for a time I go from among them into the dark halls of Amenti, deep in the halls of the earth. Raise the eye high over the entrance, a doorway, a gateway, leading down to Amenti. Few there would be with courage to dare it, few pass the portal to dark Amenti. Deep in Earth's heart lie the halls of Amenti, far neath the islands of sunken Atlantis. Now, it's said that those who enter Amenti must reconnect with their divine nature in order to pass through. This is just like the flaming sword which guards the Garden of Eden. To enter the halls of Amenti, the Garden of Eden, Shambhala, past the metaphorical flaming sword, we must raise our vibrations and gain the favor of the goddess of this plane. So the halls of Amenti is where we are headed to. Funny enough, the Egyptian underworld has been called Amenti. The underworld isn't the land of the dead, but it's the world underneath our feet, just like the name suggests. Amenti, or Duat, is ruled mainly by Osiris. Osiris has been at times considered the Black One and has green skin. This is because the Black Sun, which rules the underworld, is emitting the green astral light. So just as Thoth is said to enter Amenti in order to achieve everlasting life and escape death, we can do the same by following our compasses and entering the center vortex.
Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. It is very informative, and I know it's unorthodox, but please have an open mind and look at the facts. Don't be afraid, because you have been programmed to be afraid of the true facts of life. This video is to bring you up to par with the real truth about our sun, the duality of it. Let the truth free. Don't hold it back. This is Tom Search, broadcasting live for Research for Truth, and I bid you adieu. Have a great evening. Adios, amigos. One love. Hotep.
Quetzalcoatl, the Black Sun. The Black Sun in Mesoamerican mythology has many mystical meanings. Among them it is connected to the god Quetzalcoatl. His penetration in the underworld through the west door after his diurnal passage on the sky. For the Mexicans there were two suns. The young day sun, and the ancient dark sun. Some scholars regard the mythological Black Sun as the ancient female origin of all. It is both tomb and womb. This way, it is the oneness that uniformly integrates unawareness, death, and yet an expectation of fecundity. The Aztecs associated the passage of the Black Sun, on its nightly journey through the underworld, with the image of a butterfly. The butterfly, in turn, is an archetypical symbol of the transcendent soul, transformation and mystical rebirth. It is also seen in the figure of the frightening earth goddess. Itzpapalotl, the obsidian butterfly, that devoured people during the solar eclipses, while the Aztec underworld was the eternal dwelling place of the souls. According to the Codex Rios, the underworld was made of 9 layers. The first level was the Earth's surface, which also had the entrance, or the face of a gigantic toad that devoured the dead and gave access to the other 8 lower levels. The souls of the dead occupied the 9th level known as Mictlanapokalokan. The connection with nocturnal elements is also ascribed to the god Tezcatlipoca, son of the primordial god Ometeotl, who was a god of dualities such as light and darkness. Black Tezcatlipoca, as he was known, was one of the 5 sons of the creation myth of some Nawa peoples. He ruled over the north, the earth, night, sorcery, and judgment. Another interpretation holds that the sun god Huitzilopochtli crossed the underworld during the night, bestowing light to the forgotten souls. However, he demanded human blood as payment to his tasks. Before his nightly effort, Huitzilopochtli was accompanied from zenith to setting by the Siwa Pipiltins, the souls of women who had died in childbirth, which then reappeared as crepuscular moths on Earth. At archaeological scenes, the plumed serpent shows a man with a black sun within a yellow sun. In this manner, the spinning of the sun and black sun shows a wheel crossing within a obfuscatory motion, where 4 black rays move out of 4 yellow rays. According to some authors, these sets of 4 rays relate to the 4 cardinal points and the 4 quarters. They represent the governance held by the gods over the human race since its infancy, as well as the annual rotation of the heavens, and the universal rulership portrayed in the great dance called Mitotilistli, which reproduces the appearance of a wheel. Hit that bell. Share, like and subscribe to support the channel for more ancient mystery.
Isn't he our power?
I am the power.
So then you give us power?
Mm-hmm. You're alive because of me.